Howdy, howdy. What is going on? And welcome to episode 18 of the best podcast ever, Back of the End Zone. I'm Josh Ryzik here with Brian Koleski. We're in a great mood today. We're pumped. We're excited to get going with this episode. We have our first guest in God knows how long. We have Jason Freeman, standout linebacker from South Dakota State University. He led South Dakota State's defense in tackles this past year.
They won a natty.
Yeah, but he won the Natty. He was also newcomer of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference. And dude's a stud. He's a flat-out star and lights it up on the field, tears up the field everywhere he goes. And we're just going to talk to him about his transition because he actually transferred from an NAIA school to South Dakota State. So we're going to talk to him about what that transition was like, just a little bit about his career, what it's like being at a Division I school, what it's like winning a national championship,
and
all that kind of stuff.
I like this little this different type of episode we're doing today. Getting away from the FCS and talking about FCS because FCS doesn't get a lot of credit because they still do put guys in the league. They do have competitive teams like North Dakota State, like South Dakota State. I mean,
like Holy Cross, Samford, all these other schools.
Sam Houston. So and they almost, like we said before the episode started, they almost beat Iowa. You've had FCS schools, come out and beat a Power Five or a FBS school from time to time, and so I don't think the FCS gets enough credit, just from a standpoint because not a lot of people pay attention. But I mean, I enjoy watching some of these teams like South Dakota State, North Dakota State. When I have the chance when they're on TV, I enjoy watching.
It's fun, and it's fun watching that rivalry too, which is another question I want to ask him. Just diving into what the rivalry is like with South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and yeah, I mean it's crazy. But so we're excited to have Jason Freeman on, and then after we talk to him, we're gonna dive into what Bryant wants to talk about.
The NFL running back situation, man. Earlier this week, the deadline for some of the running backs that were, or some of the franchise tag players that were franchise tagged in March to get long-term deals. Now that's gone, that's what they'll play off. That's what they'll be paid off of and play on as a franchise tag. And there were three running backs, 3-star running backs that were in that yesterday: Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. And it's becoming a hot topic this week because you feel like those guys deserve to be paid more. We're going to dive into that. It seems like the running back position is not as valuable as it used to be.
Oh, it's not. It's not. And they've shown that too. It's been proven now, and just looking at all the guys getting between trades and guys not getting re-signed, then I mean we'll dive into it too, but there's so many different factors and it really has been devalued like compared to any other.
And it's just crazy to think about because it's not so long ago when you've had feature running backs like Adrian Peterson, Sean Alexander,
Jamal Charles,
Reggie Bush, or Jamal Charles,
guys left and right that were like getting bigger contracts at that time, and that their longevity was there too. They were guys that were all in the league for long periods of time as opposed to now where it's looking like more and more running backs are getting more leg injuries or tearing ACLs or whatever it may be, or pulling a hammy. And it's
And so, and the other NFL thing we're going to discuss today is the AFC West. I'm excited about that because I might be wearing a Vikings jersey, but I'm a Broncos fan through and through, and that is my conference. My division been dominated by the Chiefs the last several years, ever since Peyton retired. And could this be the year? Probably not. Where Sean Payton, being the new Denver Broncos head coach, gets Denver right, and they can come out on top of that division, or is it going to be another, Kansas City walkthrough? Or can the Chargers and Raiders put something together? We'll discuss that. Yeah, before we get, in our interview with Jason, that is sponsored by, shout out to our sponsors. The interview will be sponsored by Now Fitness, Gym and Fitness Center based in Grove Hill, Alabama. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit and other workouts, and they help local athletes train and get in their best shape. Call 251-269-3065 for more. So, and they, shout out to them for sponsoring this episode and this interview. So let's go and get Jason in, man.
want to welcome Jason Freeman, linebacker from South Dakota State University, on to this week's episode. We are pumped to have him on. And I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, I wouldn't say that I grew up with Jason, but I've known him mutually through going to the same school with him for a little bit. The dude is a freak athlete. I'm telling you, anywhere on the field where the ball is, he is there every single play. And I mean, he's scary. To offenses, I'd be afraid of him. He's at South Dakota State, just won a national championship this past year. And I mean, there's even more coming. So, Jason, I just want to know like a little bit background, like how you got to where you're at now and just like what the future looks like for you.
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I wasn't highly recruited, unfortunately. I was a little smaller than I am right now. So yeah, so I went to NAI school, Olive Nazarene. I was there for 4 years for my whole undergrad. I kind of made a decision knowing that I had 2 years after I graduated of football eligibility that I wanted to make a jump to a higher division. And so yeah, after that last season, I started contacting coaches, um, DMing every coach on Twitter, kind of going through the whole thing, because there's no transfer portal for NAI, which kind of sucks. So you kind of got to market yourself all over again, like you were in high school. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to get any coaches to talk to me, no matter the accolades or the stats I had. So luckily, I had family here at South Dakota State. My cousin Daishani plays corner here. So he talked to the defensive coordinator at the time. He liked the film, so I came on a visit. I liked what I seen. Honestly, I didn't have too many choices, but I'm glad I ended up here. So came down here the summer of last year. Kind of felt out of place, just starting all over again as a 21-year-old instead of being an 18-year-old in college. So it was definitely a different environment. Just having to find new friends, meet new people. You got a whole new coaching staff, new playbook, which was probably the hardest thing I had to learn. Just how complex our defense is. So that honestly took me like through half the season to fully like grasp the playbook. So yeah, so it was kind of a difficult transition. And then I kind of settled in. I didn't know what my playing time was going to look like, honestly. So the first couple of games I wasn't really playing as much, and then but when I was getting in, I was making some plays. So yeah, so like throughout the season, I just kept getting more and more playing time. Started making more plays. Kind of like the last couple games going into the playoffs was when I was like starting the majority of the games because we rotate a lot at linebacker here. So yeah, and then made some plays, here and there. Made it to the national championship, and then we won the national championship, which was, I mean, unexpected for me. I didn't really know what to expect coming in here. I knew they were a good program, and they've had success in the past. They made it to the national championship before, but hadn't won. But they've been in the playoffs for year in and year out. So, yeah, I didn't know what to expect. Luckily, I guess I came at the right time. Yeah, I just took advantage of the opportunity, and then we won the national championship, and then my last year is coming up this year, trying to make the most of it. I only got one more go around, so I got to leave it all out there, and hopefully we leave with another national championship.
Heck yeah. I definitely see that happening too. And I was talking to Brian about it before. I didn't realize, I knew that you were one of the leading guys on your defense too, but I was looking into it. I didn't realize that you were the leading tackler on all of your defense this past year too. And I think like one of my first main questions too, just transferring, being a two-time NAIA first team All-American, and then transferring to a Division I FCS school, was there like, in being South Dakota State and you guys winning a national championship, was there like a huge difference that you noticed in just like practices and training from going from NAIA to Division One?
Yeah, it's just honestly, it's the resources at NAI schools. You kind of got to fend for yourself. You don't get all the nutritional needs that you would get at a Division I university. Like we get yoga for free, which I mean, not every school does, but like fortunately we have it. Like at Olivet, like I mean, I was grinding on my own basically. So definitely that was probably the biggest difference. And then obviously when it comes to the playing field, the competition's a lot better. But I think I didn't really have too much of a problem with that. it's more so the formations because in NAI you're playing a lot of 10, 11, sometimes 12 personnel, but here you're playing 11, 12, 22, 32 personnel. It's like that's like football, like collision every play. So just getting accustomed to that, and then at Olivet, I was playing outside linebacker, and then I got here and I'm playing inside linebacker. So a lot more contact with offensive linemen. So I definitely had to adjust my game because I was kind of freelancing at Olivet where I could just kind of play off the edge and do my thing. But here's like everything's in the box and just being keen on reading no linemen and stuff like that. So yeah, there's been couple big differences.
Heck yeah, Brian. Do you have any questions?
What I want to know is like from the NAIA transition to the FCS, how much do you think of a talent gap? Well, I mean, or like I wouldn't say talent, but like competition gap was there, between the NAIA teams to jumping to the Division One FCS, which you know is still not as competitive as the FBS, but still, I mean, FCS still has a lot of great competition and players, especially at the level of South Dakota State and North Dakota State and some of those, upper echelon of teams in the FCS. What do you feel like there was a huge jump as far as competition?
Yeah, I just feel like for FCS, like all around, there's good players, and in the NAI, there's like like a couple players on defense, maybe, and a couple players on offense, and like in the NAI, there's like you could just be fast and be like, okay, you're playing. Like you could be 5'6", 130 pounds or whatever. Like the size really didn't matter when you played NAI because like that's not what they're looking for. They're just looking for guys that fit the school more than they fit the football program. But for FCS, they look at your build, they look at how you run, how you bend, and stuff like that. So definitely in the skill position, I'd say speed, and then the O linemen are a lot bigger, a lot stronger,
Yeah.
and then but like the same thing for NAI. There's like guys who can play at higher divisions that obviously don't get the opportunity to. And the same thing for FCS. There's FCS guys who could be playing FBS ball, but they just don't have the opportunity to. So I mean, they kind of have their own kind of pros and cons, I guess you could say.
Yes, sir. Okay, I kind of have a kind of off-topic question, but the South Dakota State, North Dakota State rivalry is something that we were both talking before you came on that like sparked both of our interests because we're like, you're coming from like not too far north of Chicago, and then you go to the middle of South Dakota, and then like there's just this huge rivalry between South Dakota State and North Dakota State. You guys played each other in the national championship too. Like just like what is that rivalry like to people from like North and South Dakota?
Yeah, since there's no like professional football teams in North or South Dakota, like these are their professional football teams. So it's like like willing to die by like diehard fans for real. So like at Olivet Nazarene, we didn't have rivalries for real. Like you maybe did, but it wasn't as like crazy. The crowds aren't as bigger. So like when I got here, like that's like all they talked about. There's the Dakota marker game, which is when we play them during the regular season. So like,
Yeah.
it's either you leave with the marker or you don't. That's a big thing. And like if you go up north and you're wearing South Dakota State gear, like they're gonna look at you funny. If you come to South Dakota and you're wearing North Dakota State gear, like they're gonna look at you funny. Like it's like real like NFL rivalry. So it's definitely crazy to see. But honestly, for me, like I'm one of those guys that kind of blocks out everything. So it didn't really mean much to me just because it's my first year here, but I definitely understood what came with playing those games and how intense they were. Just like with practice, like the preparation was different when we were playing these games. Cause like you want to win every game, but like this is the game you want to win, like during the regular season. And then we got a chance to play in the national championship game. So it's like that game you really want to win because like when are you ever going to meet your rival in a national championship game? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just completely different than like any kind of like small school rivalry or anything like that. It's definitely I feel like in like NFL competition, like because you got guys like from both schools that have chances to go to the league every year. So you're playing top notch talent, and then at that, like you got thousands of fans who hate you and thousands of fans that love you, just scream the whole game. So, yeah, it's definitely a cool experience, though.
Heck
And
yeah.
What I wanted to ask is, you're starting to see this shift in college football where there are some teams that are starting to move up, a peg. You saw it, just this summer with Cincinnati, UCF, Houston, and BYU moving from the group of five schools, moving into the Big 12, moving into that Power Five, and you're starting to see, and you saw it last year with some FCS schools moving up to the Power Five, not Power Five, the FBS, like James Madison, who moved up into South Alabama's conference, the Sun Belt, nearly won it had it not been for the first year ban, postseason ban. Do you think you've seen the success North Dakota State and both South Dakota State have kind of had the last several years? Do you think both of those schools, or South Dakota State, or are kind of ready to make that jump into the FBS?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could just speak on South Dakota State, but um, I feel like a lot of the fans and the audience, they want that. But
Mm-hmm.
for us, like we just made it to the top, and we kind of, want to ride it out as long as we can. We want to build a dynasty here because we came so close every year. Like our head coach before he was here 26 years, came so close so many times. He finally won a national championship. So I think there'll be probably at least a good 10 years before 5, 10 years maybe before like the FBS jump would make sense because I mean we won one national championship. People could see that as a fluke or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
like if we were to jump to FBS and just start losing a bunch of games all the time, then it's like what's the point in moving up if you had so much success at a FCS level? And then obviously money comes into it with the jump and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean maybe in the future, but within the next couple of years, I don't see either team moving up to that. Yes.
No, I get that. Another question, it kind of goes back to like the jump from NAIA to like Division One. And I think one of just the main questions that kind of sparked my interest was your first game at South Dakota State. You went to Kinnick Stadium in Iowa and played Iowa in a close game where you guys lost 7-3. But I'm like, that's literally like that game though. Like, what was the environment like from like being at Olivet Nazarene, which is like a high school stadium size, to then going to Iowa and like literally playing there?
Yeah, I mean there was like 67,000 people or something like that. And honestly, like I mean when you're in the game you don't notice it, but just standing on the sideline, you're just looking around, all you see is black and yellow everywhere. And like the stands are filled up like way deep. And it's just I mean, it's like there's no words for it, at least for me, because like you said, I came from, if 3,000 people were at the game, like that's like a packed game, like that's crazy to me. So going from that to 60,000 more people watching is definitely crazy. And then we're on TV. Like, I mean, it was definitely like a no better way to like welcome the FCS than playing, FBS team in front of 60,000 people. So yeah, it was crazy to say the least.
No, Brian, do you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, you know, this past year, y'all just won a national championship, and for you, this is your last year. Is there like a part of your game that you like from this past year that you really like this off season that you really kind of feel like maybe is a weak point, or maybe like something that maybe you needed to work on this off season that you've really focused on, or something that's really like been the main like the focus of your off season as far as like at your position, what you do as a linebacker, um, you know, what's like an area that you've really worked at this off season to perfect?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what comes with that was learning the playbook because once you understand the playbook, the game gets a lot easier. You don't have to think as much. You can move as fast. And like with my game, like I take pride in my instinctiveness because me being smaller, like, you got to be faster. You got to be stronger. So, um, yeah, I mean, and then just like the transition from playing outside linebacker to inside linebacker. I guess I would just say like, I mean, there's a bunch of small things that work on like hand fighting, leverage on linemen, things like that, being able to shed blocks,
Yeah,
having the correct pursuit angles, because the backs are a lot shiftier here. You don't want to over pursue, lose your lane. Um, Obviously playing man technique, going against better slot receivers than I was at my old school. So I mean, there's an accumulation of things that small things that all kind of go hand in hand that can help elevate my game. And I guess it's just been a little bit of everything, honestly, because I wouldn't say there's nothing I'm perfect at. There's some things I'm good at, but um, when you can just knock those small things down to better your game, the big things don't matter. Like, making a tackle, like it's your pad level, it's your hand placement, your eyes, things like that, and just like consistently focusing on the small things, and then over time, you working that over and over, it just makes the game a lot easier. You don't have to think about, okay, he's coming at this angle, like, do I need to slow down, speed up, get high, get low? Like, how do I tackle him? It all just becomes instinctual. So, me being good at my instincts, like
Yeah.
those small things matter to me, and that's something I've been working on since I've started college ball, and it's elevated my game ever since. So
And so, what's like the mindset of like the team going into the season? Because you see it all the time where even with some of the top teams like Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, where they get to the top and then they seem to get a little complacent, and their coaches kind of preach that. Now that you're and like I said, and now that like to the rest of college, football, to the rest of the FCS, y'all are technically the ones with the target on your back. You're being hunted. How do you like shift that mindset into like after you just won a national championship, like after celebrating to now, okay, we need to focus and getting ready to go into the next season? Like, what's the mindset been for the team as a
yeah,
whole?
I think it's more so as a team, we kind of take a humble approach to what we had last season. Like it was good, but like we're not boasting about it. It's more
Yeah,
so the outside noise. And as for being, we are the hunted now, but we're all thinking as we're still the hunter.
that's right.
So, and I feel like w once you go to that mindset, like, okay, we're the hunted, that's when you become complacent. Because now you're just like, okay, this team's coming for me, this team's coming for me. But when you stay the hunter, like you stay hungry, like you just, you can't let up. And we have a mental performance coach that we meet with often, and he kind of preaches that to us, just blocking out the outside noise, like, because like they have nothing to do with what we got going on inside our facility. So, yeah, and we just got a great group of guys that just like we aren't complacent. Like we're humble about it all, but like I mean, we're ready to go. Like everybody on the team feels like we can run it back. So, I just feel like having that overall energy throughout the facility kind of makes it not as much pressure to, like, okay, we're ranked number one for everything. Like, okay, everybody's coming after us, or if we don't win a natty, it's a bust. Like, we don't really think about those things. We just get better the next day. Like, that's really all it comes down to. And then, yeah, so that's kind of our main focus, just continuing to get better at the small things because, I mean, we've made it to the top. So we know how it feels. We know how to get there. Obviously, we got a different group of guys this year. So we're trying to figure out, okay, with this different group of guys, how can we approach it the same, but also approach it differently since we don't have, the same leadership that we had. We had guys leave and stuff like that. So, and we got a new head coach, new coaching staff. So, it's kind of like knocking out those kinks first and then coming together and working on the small things.
Heck yeah. Well, all I gotta say is I'm looking forward to watching you win another national championship and have an even better year than you had last year. Because I remember just all the time, and I know my dad loves you too. Like watching you play, and just like from Olivet and then where you're at now, like it's so cool, and it's awesome seeing you ball out too. So
Yeah, it's definitely a blessing. Like, never like coming out of high school, I thought I'd be playing Division 1 ball because like I mean I know once I left high school I was like, okay, I'm content with like being at an NAI school, like I'm just grind, and like it worked. Like it's just like hat off to myself, but I give all praise to God. Like without him none of this is possible. So it's been a crazy ride for sure, and I'm just trying to end the last one on a good note.
And do
oh yeah,
you
before you know
possibly?
it, you'll be in the league too. So
I'm about
That's
to
the
say,
plan. That's the
do
plan.
you possibly see the league in your future? Do you, I mean, have any NFL teams reached out to you or scouts, or have you gotten any of that kind of attention?
I mean, yeah, that's the plan. I mean, I wouldn't be playing 6 years of college ball or whatever, how long ever I've been playing, but I wouldn't be playing this long, fighting through injuries day in and day out, just to be done at the end of the day. honestly, I don't know what my future holds. All I can do is what I've been doing, keep my head down and grind, and it's been working out so far, and I plan for it to work out this next season. But as for NFL scouts or anything, no, honestly. I'm not a big name. Like I may have had success, but I'm not a big name that, these guys are looking for. But we have like scouts come here all the time during fall camp, so I'm sure we'll have all 32 teams here because we had them here last year. So just making the most of my opportunity because that's all I can do. So yeah, I just plan on doing that, and whatever happens is out of my hands. So
That's right.
Yeah, I'm betting on it. I'm betting on it for sure. So
yeah, I'm rooting for you as well. I mean, being a Southerner all my life, living in the South, I haven't, paid attention all that much to the Northern teams. I mean, I pay attention a little bit to the Big Ten and to some of the, like, I have paid attention to North Dakota State and South Dakota State a little bit because of they're both pretty. I mean, they've always been pretty good teams and the rivalry there. But I mean, I've watched a lot of your highlights since Josh told me about you, and I'm looking forward to watching more of South Dakota State and more of you. And um, I'm rooting for you, man. I hope to see you in the league next year.
I appreciate you guys for sure.
heck yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, Jason. We appreciate it more than you know. And heck yeah, I hope you continue to just get the grind going. You got less than 50 days until week 1. So heck yeah.
Yes, sir. Time is approaching, but y'all gonna see me plenty.
That's right.
Oh yeah,
I'll
we're excited. So heck yeah. Well, good luck, Jason, and thank you again. We thank Jason Freeman again. We cannot thank him enough. We are extremely blessed and grateful for having him on, talking to him, getting to know a little bit more about him, and just looking forward to the stellar season that he's going to have. And hopefully he starts getting some calls from some NFL teams towards the beginnings, halfway, even towards the end of this year, heading towards the draft. But
Broncos need a linebacker.
Yeah, literally. And diving into segment 2, we want to thank our sponsor, 251 Pool Works. They're family owned and operated. 251 Pool Works offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair, and they serve the greater Mobile, Baldwin, and Pensacola County areas. And if you're needing any monthly pool cleaning service or repair, give them a call at 251-978-77-3Works for the Pool Works. We cannot thank 251 Pool Works enough for sponsoring this episode along with segment 2. As we dive into the NFL running back situations, there's lots of crap going on right now with NFL running backs and just the position being devalued. But
like we said in the intro, there were 3 opportunities for running backs, that have been pretty productive for their teams especially when they're healthy. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard all had a chance to get the bag this offseason. They're franchise tagged, and that's what they'll play on if they decide to play. And it seems, and I tweeted something yesterday. I feel like if you're a feature back, if you're a do it all kind of running back, and you're healthy. Now there's been some questions with Saquon's health, but he plays for the Giants, so I don't put that all on him. But I think there's something to be said when you're a do-it-all back for your team, like Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. They have, these guys are getting paid, 16, 15, 12 million a year. Like, I have it pulled up right now. Those are the top 3 running back contracts right now. And you could argue Josh Jacobs has been just as productive as those 3. Saquon Barkley, when he's healthy and when he's at his best, is just as healthy. Is just as productive as those 3. And Tony Pollard has really exploded onto the scene the last couple of years, when Zeke's been hurt. And so you feel like there's an argument to be made for these 3 guys, and not just these 3 guys.
Even more, like we were talking about, all the free agent running backs now between Kareem Hunt. Some people might have questions about him, but Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, and Dalvin Cook. Right after Dalvin Cook was released by the Vikings, like, everyone was quick to think that, like, he was going straight to Miami or Denver or wherever else. And it's like, he's another one of these free agent running backs now that's just sitting, and like the market's open, anyone can sign whatever. And it's just like, it seems like the water is very calm and nothing's getting stirred up with these guys because, like we're saying, the running back positions just continue to become more devalued. And people question the longevity of these guys. Like, are they going to get hurt? They haven't shown much over the past years. Or some of these guys, like between Zeke and Leonard Fournette, like they have been hurt. They have
in a couple of years, you'll have guys like Najee Harris coming up for a new contract, who's been everything for the Steelers the last couple years. Travis Etienne for the Jaguars, Ramondre Stevenson for a couple of years. You'll have guys like Najee and Ramondre Stevenson come up for a new contract. But going back to what you're saying about devaluation of the running back position, it seems that way because you've seen it the last 3 or 4 or 5 years and you can go back a little bit further than that as well, where they'll hang on to these running backs, throughout their rookie contract, or just only for a couple of years, and then they'll go to the draft or they'll go to free agency and get I wouldn't say a below average back or an average back, but as long as and they'll get an average running back, or they'll go and draft another rookie in the 3rd or 4th, 5th rounds, and that'll be the running backs for the season. And you see, take teams like the Chiefs. They had Clyde Edwards-Helaire for a couple of years, but now you see a few guys taking the reins, is like Isaiah Pacheco, Jerry McKinnon, and then they have some other guys, but there's not one feature guy, and each one of those guys are, I don't want to say this, but it's true, they're replaceable. Like on a roster like the Chiefs, they're replaceable because they don't use the running backs as much.
Every single one of them. And it's like, same thing goes for looking at, say, the Lions this year. They ended up getting David Montgomery, signed him, but then they got rid of DeAndre Swift. And and it's like, and it's
got rid of Miles Sanders.
Exactly. And it's like, and those are great running backs, but it's just like, to teams, it's like you always got to have a backup plan. I feel like every team nowadays is like has those 2 running back kind of options. I would say the only team I would kind of oppose that would be the Titans with Derrick Henry. But most teams have 2 running back formations where they're pounding it with 2 running backs, or maybe even 3, because they know that the running back position is replaceable and they're ready for the second. If that one guy goes down, they have another guy that can step up.
Yeah. And I was watching, Colin Cowherd. He made a good point. He was saying like these guys don't last. They do last like the shortest in the league because they do take, and that they're like one of the last positions to take hits every single play. If you use them like a workhorse, they're the least healthy guys on the team because of how much they take a pounding each and every Sunday. And maybe it's come for a time where we need to protect running backs more. Maybe have 2 or 3 guys that can carry, split carries. Maybe, but like we were talking about before the episode, we're not far removed from the the era where you had feature running backs. You had Reggie Bush, John Alexander, Adrian Peterson,
Jamal Charles, LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson. You had feature guys, and really the only real outliers of today, have been Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, and Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. A few of those, handful of those guys are really only like you only see a handful of feature backs, and so I don't know. It's a hard subject, and I saw a graphic. I think Des Bryant posted it on Twitter, or somebody posted on Twitter, and Des Bryant retweeted it or something, and that's how I saw it. But I saw a graphic that said the average NFL salary for a running back in the NFL, or the average salary for an NFL running back is $1.8 million, while the average salary for an NFL kicker is $2.2 million. So they're and kickers get hit the least in the league. Kickers are important. Don't get me wrong. They can decide games, and so can running backs. Running backs, carry the workload. They can make or break your game at the end.
They're the ones running the clock out and saving you from keeping the lead up and whatever heading into late whatever's left of the game, like stuff like that. And
in the run, and I've always enjoyed the run game more than the pass game because I don't know. I guess it's just me being a little bit old school, but man, I enjoy seeing the running backs pound it and
run it down your throat.
Run it down your throat. I mean, and I come from a part of the country that still believes in that in the SEC and Alabama, out being an Alabama football fan, you still see that, but in the NFL they're trying to become a pass heavy league, and you're seeing that, and I have no problem with that. But I still like the run. The run game is just important to me because, I mean, guys you got to have balance to win these types of win in the NFL. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like running backs should be paid more if they are a contributor. If they are the type of contributor that the three guys that didn't get paid the other day, like Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard. I feel like those guys should have gotten paid. I mean, maybe not bank breaking money, but give them a little something. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they should be paid a little bit more.
No, I definitely agree with you, but I think that leaves us off with what we have to say about the running backs. But I mean, yeah, I definitely think they should.
I'll leave off this question. Do you think? I mean, let us know in the comments. Do you think the NFL running back situation? Do you think the running back, or these two questions, is the running back position devaluing, and is there a way to bring it back? And do you think, or do y'all think running backs deserve more money? I mean.
See, I mean, they are replaceable because there's guys that can come in. But I mean, to the talent level of Saquon and Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs, they should get paid. I don't think those guys are replaceable because there's guys that can be replaced, but those teams don't have guys to replace them. Like right now, they don't.
Yeah, like
unless if
you don't see Derrick Henry's walking around all that often. You don't see Saquon Barkley's or Josh Jacobs, guys like that walking around too often.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's a lot of good rookie or young running backs, but none of them are at that talent level yet, other than like maybe Jonathan Taylor, who had some spotty games last year in injury. But yeah, there's not many guys like that. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll see how that ends up panning out if these guys end up getting paid, which I don't think they will since they haven't already. But I think that leaves us right into our last part of the episode, where this week for our NFL division predictions, we will be talking about Bryant's favorite conference division in the world, the AFC West, because he's a Broncos fan and the Broncos continue to get whooped by the Chiefs year in, year out, and everyone else in that conference. I'm just kidding.
You don't have to remind me, man. I get reminded
I'm just pulling his leg, but
all the time.
I mean, this is another conference where I think last year more than ever, I don't think as much this year, but more last year, there was a lot of questions with who was going to come out on top of that division because last year specifically, there was a lot of new guys in the AFC West. I don't think this year has that many questions, but
I was about to say, like, I don't think there's as many questions because I'm gonna be honest, the Chiefs are probably coming out on top of this division.
Oh, they are.
I mean, they have been the top dogs ever since Peyton retired. Even before and that was a couple years before they got Patrick Mahomes. Like, to put this in perspective, and I hate mentioning this as a Broncos fan but it's true. The Broncos have not beaten the Chiefs since like week 16 or 15 of 2015 season. That was when they won the Super Bowl. That was the season they won the Super Bowl 50, and they have not beaten them since. But as far as this division goes, I mean, forget the Chiefs. I don't want to spend too much time on them because they're probably coming out on top. They did lose Juju Smith-Schuster. I think they lost a couple of guys on defense. Frank Clark, who is coming over to Denver to join that pass rush with Randy Gregory, and Jonathan Cooper and an Ohio State guy. What's his name again?
Who are you talking about on the Broncos? Draymond Jones?
No, not Draymond Jones. He left. He went to another team. The guy that got drafted by Ohio State, drafted from Ohio State, he was a linebacker. Baron Browning. Those two have really come on last year, but so forget the Chiefs. We don't need to talk about them real too much because there's nothing really to talk about.
Yeah, it's
I
the
really
Chiefs
want to talk about
the same team.
Yeah, I really want to talk about the other three teams because while the Chiefs might come out on top, there's still room for these guys for these other three teams to make the playoffs and finish second or third in that division. I think it's at second. It's between the Chargers and the Broncos. But I got the Broncos schedule pulled up right here. They lost so many one possession games last year, games that they could have gone either way if they just had a little bit more juice on offense. Like the first game at Seattle, Russell Wilson's homecoming last year, they lost that one 17-16, and they fumbled inside the goal line twice. They lost to the Raiders 32-23, another one possession game. They lost to the Colts in overtime 12-9. The Chargers in overtime 19-16. The Jets 16-9. The Titans 17-10. Las Vegas 22-16. Baltimore 10-9. Kansas City 34-28. I can go on and on about how many one possession losses they had where the game could have gone either way. And if they win a few of those games, they're probably in the playoffs. So you look at them this year, the Broncos. It all depends on if Russell Wilson. They have the talent on offense. They have the talent there with Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick coming off an injury.
Pat Surtain coming back, like you would say, best corner in the league.
Devontae Williams coming back from injury at running back.
I said, like you would say with Pat Surtain, the best corner in the league.
He is the best corner in the league.
I'd say he's a top corner in the league. I wouldn't consider him the best. I really don't know.
ESPN had him ranked as the top corner. And that was NFL execs, scouts, and coaches. So, but no, it really just depends on Russell Wilson, man. It really depends on if he can bounce back from the abysmal season he had last year. I just remember the moment they traded for him. I was so happy. I was ready. I thought, okay, this is gonna be a new era, and it was the same crap last year on offense where he couldn't score, have turnovers, and a bunch of penalties. But it just comes back to Russell Wilson, and if they can bounce back, and I think they can. I think Sean Payton is the guy to put the Broncos in a position to compete. Now I want to talk about the chart. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's just
I think the Chargers have a really good chance of being a dark horse to take the number 2 spot of the West. I know as a Broncos fan that may hurt, but I just think, I mean, since 2010, there's been 2 teams that have won the AFC West, the Broncos and the Chiefs. No one else has won it since 2010. Yeah. And taking a look at, I really do think this could be a year where the Chargers do have a shot. I mean, it really just does depend, but I mean, they have Justin Herbert coming back. They have,
and even as like a Broncos fan, I've always been a big fan of Justin Herbert. I got a signed rookie card of him somewhere over here. And I want him to win a few Super Bowls, and that'll cash in for me. But no, I'm joking. But
I mean, but they have a lot of guys coming back. I mean, you look at they have an awesome offensive line with Rashawn Slater, a couple other guys protecting Herbert. It's questionable with Eckler because Eckler, he's coming back regardless, but he did ask for a trade. But then you look at the receivers. They have Mike Williams. They have Keenan Allen. They added Quentin Johnston in the draft. They have a ton of other guys on defense, like Khalil Mack coming back,
Samuel,
for redemption here. Yeah, Asante Samuel, Derwin James. Like, they have the guys. They do. Yeah. And I mean, it's really just going to be one of those make or break years in the AFC West for who's going to take that number 2 spot, because they could make a wild card. They could. But I mean, so could the Broncos, pending what happens. I feel like regardless, I think the Raiders are coming at the bottom of the division. I don't care about Devontae Adams.
Like, okay, when it comes to the Chargers, like the Chargers' biggest problem has been their head coach. Brandon Staley has not done enough. I don't want to say defensively, because he is a defensive-minded coach. But like, coaching wise, he's just made a few bonehead decisions at the end of games that have cost the Chargers. And like I remember the big people thing where people were mad at him last year was week 17. They had already made the playoffs. They already had a spot against Jacksonville the next week in the wild card game. He decided to play his starters anyway, and I think Justin Herbert got banged up in that game. I think a couple other starters got banged up in that game. Mike Williams got hurt, and he couldn't play the next week. And so I think, when it comes down to the Chargers, is can Brandon Staley become smarter as a head coach when it comes to things like that, when it comes to game-ending decisions or game-breaking decisions, personnel decisions, stuff like that, because that's ultimately going to decide their season because Justin Herbert, as as much as I hate that he's on the Chargers, he's second best quarterback in that division by a mile, and
as of right now, currently, yeah.
As of right now, and so he should be competing for Super Bowls. He should be right there with Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar and Allen in that AFC conversation.
And the thing is, too, you look at the Chargers; they could have been playing the Chiefs in the playoffs this past year if they didn't blow that lead to the dang Jaguars.
Exactly.
That one crazy game where they were up 30-3 or something like that,
yeah,
or 30.
It was a Falcons level type of
game.
Lead.
They just blew it, and everyone thought, oh, the Chargers are going to go. They got redemption.
Well, I thought at halftime the Chargers had this. I was almost half asleep, and then here come the Jags, man.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just another thing where it's like it's those moments where things like that too, where they have the lead, and it's really just it's nitpicky. There's nitpicky things that they have to work on, and
you know and you mentioned the Raiders. The Raiders, I don't want to count the Raiders out just yet. I think the Raiders, as they stack up to the rest of the teams in the division, I think they do probably have the fourth best roster and fourth best quarterback in the division. But they have Jimmy G, who when he's healthy, he can play to a pretty good level. Their defense, especially their front, like they're up front, they're going to be great with Max Crosby, and some other and Chandler Jones and some other guys that they got.
They have Devontae Adams coming back, and it's like if they can figure out the whole Josh Jacobs situation, they'll still be in good.
Like, and they still have Hunter Renfrow now. They did get rid of Darren Waller, which I think is a little bit that's a huge loss at tight end. But I think they do have another guy that they're going to be featuring a lot. I can't remember his name.
Mac Hollins.
No, Morrow. I think he plays for the Saints. Anyway, I think Darren Waller is a big loss for them. I don't know what their offensive line is going to look like. I think I don't know what they're going to be able to do to protect Jimmy G. I think the biggest worry for me for the Raiders, and it's been a worry for the last few years, and they started to address it. They got Nate Hobbs. They tried to address it with Damon Arnett, but they ended up cutting him. The secondary. I think the secondary is they do have Trevor Moehrig from TCU that I drafted a few years back. I just think this. I don't know what to think of their secondary or their offensive line. So I think they're the weakest team, but I wouldn't count them out just because they do have a great offense, like Devontae Adams. And if Josh Jacobs plays, he's a beast.
And Jimmy G's been able to get it done.
Yeah,
like
Jimmy G.
He's been to a couple Super Bowls, won some under Brady. Like, I mean, he's a great average quarterback. Like, I wouldn't say he's phenomenal or anything, but he gets the job done, and he's good at getting the job done. So,
I think it's the Chiefs who win that division. Then I think it's anybody's game at number 2, and 3 and 4. I guess if I had to pick it today, I'd go Chiefs at 1. Unfortunately, I would. And this is a little bit of bias coming here, but I do think the Broncos can piece it together. Their schedule is a lot more favorable than last year's. I do like the Broncos at number 2, but close. I think it is close. The Chargers at a close number 3. I think, and even with the Chargers at number 3, they could still make the playoffs. But I mean, I think the Raiders do end up finishing at 4. It just depends on if Jimmy G can stay healthy. If Josh Jacobs holds out, then that's they lose a big part of their run game. It just all depends on that, man. I like
for me, mine's the same as you, but I'm switching to 2 and 3. I got the Chargers finishing second, and you guys finishing third. I mean, and the Broncos surely could come in second. Just right now, I think for me, unbiased opinion is that I think there's just still a lot that's in question. I think Russell Wilson's going to have a great bounce back year, but there's still a lot in question there just with kind of that whole situation. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. It's
like a lot that's the issue for all 3 of the other teams in that division is their offense. Is can their offense keep up with the Chiefs? Because now the Chiefs, I think, will be a little bit weaker on defense this year because they did lose Frank Clark. They lost some other players on defense, but I mean, there's not much to say about them because they're more than likely coming out on top of the division. They're probably going to be right back in the Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Yeah, and exciting thing is by the time this episode's out, there will be less than 50 days until week 1 of the NFL season.
That's right. Lions and Chiefs, first game.
Yep. And that's exciting. I'm excited as a Bears fan because it's Bears Packers week 1. So it'll be pretty cool. It'll be exciting. So,
and even, with no, you still got a little over a month to go before football. You still have some exciting things like the new Netflix series Quarterback. I recommend watching that. I've watched the first few episodes already. It's really good. Hard Knocks is coming back, they're featuring the Jets with, Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
The Netflix series Untold that has done documentaries on like Manti Te'o and other players. They're doing a new like a third season almost where they're doing episodes featuring the Urban Meyer led Florida Gator teams, Swamp Kings, and they're doing a Johnny football documentary.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you sent that to our group chat. So.
And they're also doing 2 more with Jake Paul and steroids in sports, like steroid scandals in sports. And so I'm excited for that. So it's getting closer to football, but there's more exciting things coming to kind of fill that void just a little bit.
And also, like, the rookie training camp started today, and training camp officially starts on Thursday, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's training camp will already be started by the time this comes out. So
that's right.
Football's inching in closer and closer.
Football's in the air, baby.
It is. It's almost fall. Almost got that pumpkin spice season back and all those scents.
And it's too hot down here in Alabama for that.
Yeah, literally. There's no fall in Alabama. No leaves falling. So heck yeah. But this episode's been a blast. Let us know who you guys think is taking the number 2 spot of the AFC West. And if you have a different number 1 than
Broncos
the Chiefs,
let's ride.
So heck yeah, that's crazy. But thanks again to Jason Freeman, to our sponsors, 251 Pull Works and Out Fitness. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's episode 18. We're almost at episode 20, which is just crazy to think about. So heck yeah, it's been a journey, and thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment, give us feedback on anything. Just keep following along. This is Back to the End Zone, episode 18. We're out.